All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the 4th Battalion podcast, the Crucible Call. This is a momentous occasion. This is our final episode for the semester, and this episode we're actually going to be passing it off to our incoming battalion commander, Cadet Camden McCullough, who's going to be our next co-host going forward. And we're our special guest today will be our outgoing battalion commander and soon to be lieutenant, the Sir Adam Jardines. So Adam, I know you don't need to introduce yourself, but give us a little bit of background and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. My name's Adam Jardines. First of all, I'm the outgoing now spring semester commander for 4th Battalion. In the fall, I was transferred over from hotel company to be the November company commander. And at that same time, Cadet McCullough here was my first sergeant. That was an awesome experience. Going back farther, I've been involved with the marksmanship unit and creating that during my freshman year here. And then at one point, I also served as the 2nd Battalion Sergeant Major. And that is pretty much my resume as far as it comes to my cadet career.
Yeah, you've definitely kept busy while you've been here. So first thing I want to talk about is how excited you are to get out of here and what you're going to start doing as a field artillery officer.
Um, it's definitely been quite the ride. I'm looking forward to everything that's coming, but it's also somewhat bittersweet because I know pretty much as soon as I get out of here, I'll already be missing it, even if I don't make it seem that way. It's been definitely one of the most transformative experiences in my life. The freshman that showed up on New Cadet Week is nothing like the one that's going to be graduating here very shortly. As far as what I'm excited to do coming up, I'll actually be going into armor. So that's tanks.
Oh, did I say field artillery?
Yeah, that's okay though.
My bad.
I'll forgive you. Um, and that's something I've always really liked doing. I knew I wanted to be combat arms when I came in, but uh, I really like working on things. The small group dynamic that tankers have is something that I really don't think you can find anywhere else in infantry or ADA or any of the other combat arms branches. And that's really what drove me to pick it. That and the fact that armor gets to do all the cool stuff that infantry gets to do, but we get to drive everywhere. So as a tanker at my advanced camp told me, even the best walk is still worse than the worst ride. So
Yeah, that is definitely true. Having rucked to the barracks on several FTXs.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, the memories that we make here are definitely great, and the lessons that come along with them. So, what are some lessons that you feel that you've learned here that you're going to be able to take with you in your new transition?
yeah. I would say one of the biggest ones is that you can't emulate your mentors. Everyone has to come up with a leadership style that suits their personality, I think. Because if you try and copy somebody else instead of taking the aspects of their leadership style and incorporating it into your own, you'll find that it can often clash with your own strengths and disadvantages. And so, for example, I am not a super loud guy. And that was exponentially more of a challenge for me when I came in as a freshman. I was not assertive or confident at all. And I think I've mostly overcome that through watching those mentors and how they interacted with other people. But I'm not the person who's going to walk in a room and immediately start yelling at the top of my lungs. I'm not, the one for motivational speeches, but I do have other strengths that I've recognized over the years, and that's really something that I've built my leadership style around. And so if there was one piece of advice I'd say to pass that lesson off to the younger cadets is use the time that you have to fail and figure out that leadership style, specifically starting with your sophomore year and those early leadership positions that you're given. Because when you get to the point where I am, where I could be activated at any point once I commission and show up to a unit, they might already be at a rotation at a training center or on a rotation or deployment overseas. I'm expected to step out of that door or off that plane and immediately be the one in charge. So the time for learning and exploring your own limitations is here. That's something that I came to appreciate over the years.
All right. So going off lessons learned, what do you feel has been your biggest success as battalion commander, company commander, whatever leadership position you've been in, and what you wish you had done in your time here as cadet?
Oh, that's a hard one. Biggest successes, I would definitely say it's a tie between either the marksmanship unit and November Company. I love starting new things and kind of the culture and the process behind that. And so the first thing I did was starting the marksmanship unit, and that was in the spring semester of my freshman year with 4 other cadets. And we practiced in a backyard range, basically with our parents' guns. And it was rough. It was rough at the beginning, that's for sure. But thanks to the cadets' willingness to push themselves and to commit a lot of time and energy, and also the mentorship of Master Gunnery Sergeant, over the years, I've seen the marksmanship unit grow to something that I am incredibly proud of to have been a part of. I had already had competitive experience when I came to college, and so I was worried about, it's a group competition, and so your teammates ultimately decide your score as well as your own performance. And so I was worried that freshman year, but nowadays, I mean, there's multiple cadets on the team who can outshoot me, which is, in my mind, the biggest indication of success possible. We can walk away from national level competitions with multiple placements, and that's something that I think was one of my greatest successes to be able to have done in 4 years. And then the other was starting November Company. I kind of built off my experience having started a smaller organization to try and build a new one with its own, challenges and requirements. Taking a group of 60 people who have never met each other in most cases, have no idea of what to expect, as well as freshmen who haven't even been in the Corps or to this university, and trying to mold them all together, not only as a cohesive unit, but as one that doesn't hate each other, because that's something that I've seen happen as well. And so using those experiences, the biggest thing that I found to be useful was, one, empower your subordinates. When you give people things to do and you give them room to work on things that they're passionate about, they will exceed your expectations every time. And that also, brings the burden off of you as the person in charge. And then the other was giving the unit the foundation of the culture. We voted all together on what we wanted our theme and our insignia and our motto and all these things to be. But then really letting it go and allowing some decentralization to happen and culture to develop naturally. Because what I found in every case where I was dealing with a new unit or a new tradition is that if you try and force it, it's not going to stick. Things have to develop organically. And so that's really awesome. I feel like even though I may not know what an average PL or something does, if I was asked to form a new platoon or a new company in the Army, I think I would be well set up for that experience. As far as what I wish I had done, I wish I had prioritized my various activities a little bit better, because everyone's got a little bit of a triangle. You've got your academics, your extracurricular activities and physical fitness, and then you've got your social life. And you've only got so many points to put into those skills, just like a video game, only so many hours in a day. And so I think that at certain points I kind of overstretched myself, but at the same time, that's been where I've learned the most. And so I mean, there's small regrets, things that I definitely could have done better, but overall, I would do it all again exactly the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, time management is definitely something that I've learned a lot about here, both freshman year and this year, because freshman year is all about finding the balance and figuring out how to live here, essentially, how to be a cadet.
Mhm.
And this year, you start stepping into leadership and start having these responsibilities, creating projects like a podcast. And it gets complicated, and it gets complicated fast. So yeah, understanding time management is something that I think a lot of us struggle with, but it's definitely a good lesson to keep in mind going forward. Now, you did say you've learned a lot from when you've felt stretched the most. What positions, whether it be sergeant major, CO, marksmanship, whatever, have stretched you the most, and how have those positions or times felt different between different battalions?
Well, I mean, the roles stay pretty consistent across battalions. It's more the culture that shifts and what each unit's priorities are really. But as far as what has given me the most stress or taken up the majority of my schedule, I would say it was probably my fall semester of junior year, because at that time I was the battalion sergeant major and also the commander of the marksmanship unit. And so that was certainly a challenge, trying to prepare a national level competitive team, running their practices and planning all their events, while at the same time have dealing with the stressors of being a sergeant major, which has by far the most complicated chain of command, and perhaps least defined role in the Corps, in my opinion, at least. So I found, that was a lot of late nights and a lot of sacrifices in terms of that triangle we talked about. But ultimately, I had some awesome mentors, and I worked with great people that semester, and we saw it through, and we had a successful term. So that was a really great experience for me.
Yeah. This kind of applies to both of you actually, and I want to hear different perspectives. But first, Adam, what do you look for uh in your subordinates? Like what things make them stand out? What things help you develop them? And then Camden, what do you look for in the leaders? Because you guys have been you've been first sergeant and CO and then sergeant major and battalion commander together. So what is that dynamic like?
Well, I can't remember who said it, but the difference between good leaders and great leaders is that great leaders have the talent for identifying other talent. Because as great as one person can be, the one person is very easily overwhelmed. And so it's really when you can put together a cohesive unit and identify those high performers that you can have profound impacts. So when I'm looking for people to fill out a command team or a competitive team, that kind of thing, usually comes down to number one, intrinsic motivation. If somebody, like I mentioned earlier, if somebody is passionate about something and they will get out of bed or stay awake that extra hour every night to work on this one thing simply because they want to see it succeed, then it makes your job as a supervisor extremely easy. You know, the best thing for a leader to experience is when people bring stuff to me, tell me information, and give me updates on what's going on, as opposed to me constantly reaching out and trying to figure out where people are at. So intrinsic motivation and kind of just a commitment to excellence, or kind of an elite mindset, right? People who, even though they know perfection is unobtainable, are always seeking to perfect every aspect of their life, whether that be physical fitness, their professionalism, could be something as small as their uniform, right? You can tell when somebody is able to see the bigger picture and they want to graduate with the best version of themselves that they can be. And those two things, intrinsic motivation and the elite mindset, is something that's very easy to identify, in my opinion, once you understand that that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and from the perspective of a follower looking for like that leadership, is just with everything they said, with that intrinsic motivation, it enables you to do your job or whatever you're looking to do. And so it just instills trust, and it shows that they not only trust their follower, their subordinate, but it helps build trust with them. The biggest thing with leadership, especially in the Corps, because it gets very complicated with the different tiers of chains and leadership and who you listen to, is just allowing that person to operate in their field and trusting that you're doing what your role is and they're doing whatever their respective role is. And the more that you can trust each other to do that and not constantly be checking up on each other, the better that operation is. And we've been in the unique situation where I don't think this has really happened a ton in the Corps, where we've gone from company level together in the same respective positions to battalion level. And, the relationship stayed basically the same. It adapted to our new roles, but for the most part, I knew I could come talk to him if I was having issues, if I didn't know what to do about something. And at the same time, I knew he trusted me to do whatever I needed to get done, and he could trust me to give me tasks. And that's the biggest thing, is if you prepare your people, empower them to take care of the tasks, they'll get it done. And that just builds a great relationship of trust.
Yeah, definitely. This whole place is based on relationships and trust. It's got to be, because that's the basis. Um, Now Camden, you've been entrusted with taking on Adam's role for next semester. Um, what are some things that you, Adam, might want to see, not necessarily specifically out of her, but out of 4th Battalion in a few years? I know we've talked about this on other podcasts, but if you return to the next few years, what do you want this place to look like?
I mean, first and foremost, the long-term goal is always to build off of what's come before. And that doesn't necessarily mean, okay, well, all these traditions that we started, I want to see them when I come back, right? That's not really what I mean. It's more, you can't have a stable organization with high morale if everything resets every time the leadership changes. And part of that is just the nature of having new leadership teams come in every time. But the focus, I think, really, now that we've set the standard and we've created processes, and the culture of 4th Battalion is now fairly concrete, I think that going forward, it's really going to make or break the battalion on how we can refine those things. How can things be done more efficiently? How can we retain all the creativity and initiative that we've seen this year, and put it into practice in future semesters? So there's a lot of things that my leadership team and I got started this semester that I think could have been done better or weren't finished at all, and I think should have been. And so those are the kinds of things I would really like to see expanded upon in future leadership terms.
Yeah, continuity is a big thing that I felt has been missing. At least on a lower level, it's hard to get, right, because the regimental commander has plans, has ideas, and they're looking out in future years. But if those ideas aren't passed on, the people below you will never know. So communicating that is, I think, an important step that sometimes we miss, because it does set you up for success, but people have to know about it in order to continue that.
Right. And that's,
Um,
I'll expand a little bit on that.
yeah,
I think we've all experienced at some point, whether it be in the Corps or in RTC or some outside organization, when someone completely new shows up in some kind of leadership position and instantly decides everything has got to change and that they have the perfect solution. And that is, I think, what's going to be a challenge to avoid, because like you said, that does happen with, every regimental commander comes in with an idea on how they're going to fix the Corps. And same with the battalion commanders and the company commanders, all the way down to the lowest level. And that's a problem in the real military too. It's very common for a lieutenant or a captain or any incoming officer really to be labeled as the good idea fairy, right? They show up and they neglect that crucial step of just sitting back and watching and understanding how everything works together and what the traditions and culture of a particular group are. And so that's something I think we've done really well here. That's what I think is one of the major advantages of 4th Battalion, is that everyone understands the big picture, which is, shared understanding is one of the hardest things to accomplish in a unit as big as a 300-person battalion.
yeah, no kidding. You think you're going to be able to do that in your unit as a new lieutenant?
I mean, to be able to do that means to come in and not change everything. So I think so. I think it's really a question of humility. Number one, recognizing, hey, even though I may wear these bars and I may have a college degree, that doesn't mean I'm the smartest person in the room. And it certainly doesn't mean that I know what all of my soldiers are doing. I don't know how to track tension in Abrams. I don't know how to bore sight the main cannon, right? So if I show up and immediately start giving out new policies and new directives, then that's completely undermining, number one, everything that the previous leadership did, assuming that it was good leadership, but also taking away from that unit's identity, which is something that I think is a huge, a selfish thing and a thing that marks somebody as having very low amounts of humility. So I personally plan on doing very little when I show up, building that partnership with my NCOs. And then maybe once you get to like a captain or something, then you can start making those critical internal changes. But that's a lesson that I can't take credit for. That's something that Master Gunnery Sergeant has hammered into my head, because he knows that I am somebody who likes to stick their fingers in everything and come up with wild, wacky new ideas to fix problems that sometimes don't exist. And that's another huge takeaway that I've had, one of many.
So, what is your best advice to cadets who are looking to start initiatives? Because you've been part of a ton of them. So, what is your best advice for how to initiate that, what to do, or how you're looking to go about that process?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple things. Number one, I would say, don't do it for you. If you go into making a new organization, let's say, and you're doing it because you want to wear a cool tab on your uniform, then that unit is that's the foundation of the unit, and it's weak. And when things get rough, and when people are wondering why, like, what's the reason for all this, then it's going to fall apart if it's self-centric. And so that was something we didn't have to worry about in the marksmanship unit, because we all had competitive spirit, and we knew who our rivals were from other military colleges. We knew that these skills were going to be applicable to what we were going to do in the military. And so that really drove us. And then the other thing is, be humble in your delivery and your requests. If you show up, let's say you require a faculty advisor for something, you are essentially asking them to add more unpaid time and effort onto their already extremely busy lives. And so you get, it's all about delivery and making them see what that final goal is and the advantage of whatever you're trying to do is, whether that be a project that you're trying to do or starting a new unit or anything like that. And then finally, I'd say there's a bit of a psychology trick from back when I was a psych major. When you're trying to get something that you want from anybody else, but it's same regardless of whether it's a peer or a superior, and you don't think you're going to get it, there's two methods that you can use for asking for things. One is the foot in the door method. You start out by asking for something small, and then once they've agreed to that, then you can start asking for more and more and more. And once they've agreed to one thing, it's harder to deny you later on. And the other is the door in the face method, which is to ask for way more than what you want in the hopes that they will say, yeah, no, absolutely not. And then you can say, okay, well, how about just this and this, which is actually what you wanted from the beginning. Both of those methods have a higher chance of success in some cases than just outright asking for what you want. So just a little tidbit of my former major there.
Yeah, well, as a current psychology major, I can confirm that will probably get you closer to what you want. I mean, congratulations on a successful year, a successful semester as both November Company Commander and 4th Battalion Commander. We will be watching your career, I'm sure, as the lieutenant. So don't think you're getting away too easy. But yeah, this is the end of the year. And you'll be up next, Camden. We got a lot of great leaders coming in. So we're all excited for fall next semester. I don't think I will be hosting the podcast for the following semesters. It'll probably be passed on to incoming sophomores. That'll probably be the tradition. But this is our last show with this group right here, and Ken, you'll be carrying the torch. How do you feel about that?
I've got some big shoes to fill. A lot of great stuff was initiated, even though we're the same height. He left some big shoes to fill, a lot of good stuff to get done. So I'm not going to be as caffeine addicted as he is, but hopefully we'll be able to continue on what was started this semester and continue to grow and develop 4th Battalion into a great lasting unit in the Corps.
Absolutely. Yeah, Adam, you got any last words?
It's been an honor to have been able to serve in these positions. I never thought that this was the path that I was going to take. As a sophomore, I very much anticipated being a squad bud. But what I learned was, when you take positions that you're not comfortable with, that you're not sure you're going to succeed in, then that is the most surefire way to ensure that you develop as a person and as a leader. When you are put in those situations where you don't know what's going on and you don't know what the right thing to do is, It's really the only way to learn. So to that end, I'd like to thank everybody who's been on my teams and supporting me as a person all these years. Special thanks to Master Gunner Sergeant and Lieutenant Colonel Sheets for everything that they've taught me, which has been a great amount. I've probably learned more this year than any other time. And thank you to all the cadets like Camden who have put up with me all these years, and all my regular BS. But overall, super happy with how things have gone, and happy to move forward, and also to see how 4th Battalion moves forward in future years.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything we've done, and you got a big legacy to carry on. All right, we will see you as a sir.
Thank you very much.